Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we were taking a look at my custom 1/6 scale Michael Myers figure from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. This feels weird, this is usually in the review where I say, who made the figure? But this was actually made by two different people. The head sculpts for this figure were made by One's Customs, similar to the Rob Zombie Halloween remake figure that I showed off a few months back, but the clothing, the weathering on the body, the weapons, all that stuff was done by C Creations. But any way you slice it, this is a totally custom figure made by two really talented artists, and I've been itching to do a review of it, so let's take a closer look. Now, but because this is a totally custom figure, everything on here kind of comes with a little caveat of, well, mine has this. So accessories could really be anything I wanted to add to this figure, but the pieces that C Creations gave him was, of course, his blanket, which is this nice little rolled up piece of, kind of feels like felted cloth. It's very nicely weathered all over the back. And then we have this tie wrapping around both the top and bottom of it. And then you could take this and put it over his shoulder. A simple accessory, but one that I think is very iconic for Hobo Myers. And secondly, one of my favorites, the Hobo Myers knife. And I love the design of this knife. It's so freaking brutal. I have a 1-to-1 replica of it, and it's an enormous blade. And you could just imagine, I mean, this is a large piece, just being 1/6 scale. But it feels like it is a metal blade on here. The handle looks like it might just be clay. I don't think it's actually a wooden handle, but it still looks really nice. We have the rivets in there, the kind of hilt piece. I know this has a real knife name, but I can't remember it offhand. And the blade itself is just caked in the nasty, nasty red stuff. Now, I will say, with this figure, he had asked me how weathered and bloody I wanted it. And I told him I wanted it disgusting, even to the point of being maybe not quite movie accurate. In my mind, Hobo Myers is just bloody and grimy and just gross. And I wanted to make my ideal mental image of Hobo Myers more than I really wanted to capture exactly what was in the film. But that actually probably applies more to other sections because Rob Zombie would probably use 20 times more blood than this. But yeah, it is an incredibly done little weapon here. And in case anybody was wondering, it will slide into his mat here, which I believe is what he did in the movie to conceal the weapon while he was hoboing around. In the not quite an accessory side, one did provide a certificate of authenticity with the figure. Both figures actually have the same COA. I can't see any difference between them. So we have the RZH2 Deborah's Son, 6 scale custom head sculpt by One's Customs. He signs it, he dates it. This is the one, I believe, for the masked head sculpt, so it's dated 1 of 2017. It's not numbered like some of the more limited sets he's done. So first up, we're going to look at the first of the two head sculpts I got, which is the masked Hobo Myers. This is the look he has through most of the movie. We have the one side where it is completely masked and mostly still put together, and then the ripped away side revealing his actual face. And One has just absolutely knocked this thing out of the park. This head sculpt is so wonderfully detailed and awesome. To go off on a slight tangent here, the Hobo Myers has been one of those things that One has made pretty consistently over the time I've been following him. A character choice he's gone back to many times. It was one of those pieces that once I started buying things from him, I knew would eventually end up in my collection. Watching his videos of his early Hobo Myers figures is kind of what makes me actually like H2. Well, I know most people write it off as one of the worst movies in the franchise, but I had this weird nostalgia for it because of his figures. Just to aid in reviewing this, I'm going to take it off the body here real quick. We can see the human side of his face looks really good. The face has a lot of texture to it, making it look very much like a human that's been out in the elements for years and years. The eye is beautifully detailed in there. If we turn it around to the masked side, you can see the eye is still in there, but very, very deeply recessed, giving it a very sinister look. We have all the cracks throughout the mask, also a good texture to all of it to give it that worn look. The paint on here is much, much darker than the H1 version of the mask, really showing its age and weathering. Good little hole up here at the top of his head. The Alice Cooper eye, which is one of my favorite details of this mask. And then the real detail, I think, comes with the hair on this figure. Now we have the Michael Myers hair, very matted and crazy, coming off the top of the mask, and that covers most of the top of the head on this figure. But then we have little bits of Michael's hair coming through. So we have this strand of hair coming out of the top of the mask here, going down the side of his face. We have little bits of hair coming up over the edge of the mask where it's ripped. And then here at the bottom, we have his big bushy beard. Coming on to the back, we do have the rest of his long hair coming out down the back of the mask, just like the other figure I have. And then we do have a little slit back here as well. And overall, just a fantastic looking head sculpt. Next up, we have the unmasked head sculpt. This is the Hobo Myers without the mask on. Originally, I think one was just offering these unmasked heads to people who had bought the full set on the figure. I think it was actually an earlier release of the Hobo Myers figure where he did the clothing and everything. But recently, he did offer these up for grabs, so I knew I had to have one, even if it's not going to be on the figure at all times. But the detail here is just as fantastic as the stuff with the mask on it. Same great texture on the skin. I love that there's little like crow's feet on the side of his eyes. The eyes are also nicely detailed. He has this great scowl on his face that's very Tyler Mane. We have his long hair coming down the side. He actually has multiple colors of hair. It goes from a darker, dirty looking brown, and then it gets lighter in certain sections, and it's all very matted and just crazy. In the front we have actual hair for both his mustache and beard, but just a crazy head that's really more hair than anything else. And it's actually kind of hard to get this figure so I can put it on the body just because I have to dig around for where the actual center of it is. As for the rest of the body, we're going back to C Creations' work, and he did a phenomenal job with a very multi-layered body here. I'm not sure what the actual body type is underneath. It is a little shorter than my H1 Myers, which I think was on a more of a basketball player style body. This is kind of more of a standard height, but it still works really well because it is a very bulky figure. It still has a very imposing presence on the shelf. So the first layer here, we have his hoodie. Looks phenomenal. We have the quilted pattern here on the outside, all these rips and tears. Remember, I did ask for this dirty and bloody. We have the pull string on either side for the hoodie itself. Coming around the back, you can see all the weathering on here. It's just awesome. You have the rough cutoff here at the sleeve, and the hood itself looks phenomenal. And you are able to flip it up over the figure's head or have it lying very nice and flush to the back of the figure. Next layer down is the blue coat here, which is also very torn up. Collar here at the back of it. Lots of great detail that you'll never really even see because of the vest. But then it comes down here for the sleeves and continues on that great tattered and torn look. And we do get it poking at the bottom here underneath the vest too. Next up, we have the thermal layer. And I remember this was like a big discovery back when it was first found out about after the movie had been released, that there was even another layer to Hobo Myers' costume that people hadn't immediately known about. So this has that really cool red flannel. This is really dirty. I just imagine just covered in stains from who knows what. Don't even want to imagine what he's been rolling around in and sleeping in. And then we have this flannel lining on the inside, kind of tattered around the edges like it's coming out. And this is freaking spectacular. And then it comes down the bottom. You can see it's super dirty here on the bottom edge. We have it sticking out over his hands here. Really, really cool. And then last but not least, these coveralls, which he did an amazing job weathering, and they're so bloody and gory and stained, just like I asked for them to be. And you don't even get to see it half the time because it's covered with the rest of the outfit, but that is the quality of attention to detail here. There's a nice wound up here on his shoulder with all that blood. Oh, I just absolutely love how gory he made this thing for me. Collar has a great texture to it as well. In case anybody's wondering, the flannel does actually cut off at his shoulders. It's cut off kind of like the vest is. And then the tattered flannel bit here is actually just sewn to the blue coat, but that really doesn't make much of a difference and probably really helps articulation with this figure. The hands are also super bloody. Here on the right side, we have a gripping hand for holding his knife, then a more relaxed or open grasping hand there on the left. Just so bloody and gross. I love it. Finishing off the coveralls, we do have the patch, we have the pockets, the snaps going down the middle, pockets here on the side with more blood detail. Blood and rips all over this thing, just like I asked for it. Just looks absolutely phenomenal. I've never even seen the back of these coveralls. That's how, I don't want to take this thing apart, but holy cow. And then going down the legs, we of course have the snaps, which are also all weathered up. And then we have his boots, also have a nice layer of dirt to them. Being a custom figure, articulation is not really my biggest concern, but we'll go through it here. He does have a ball joint at his neck, so you can get a good range of motion there, but I'm also very careful with anything on these. The arms can go forward and back as well as out to the side. They are hindered because he's wearing very thick layers of clothing. The elbow can bend about 90 degrees, and we can also swivel there. He has hot toy style wrists where you can swivel, and then I think you should be able to bend in and out, but it's not wanting to, and I think it might be because of the paint he's applied to it. So I'm not going to push it, and I'll just leave it as they are. We do have a mid-torso ball joint, so you go forward, back, rotate side to side, and pivot. Similar joint there at the waist, forward and back, side to side, all that good stuff. Legs will go forward a decent amount. It will go back, not too much. It will go out to the side, an upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and then a great ball joint there at the foot. For a comparison, here's the Hobo Myers figure next to the One's Customs Halloween 1 Rob Zombie figure there on the left. As I mentioned, the figure One made is a little bit taller, but especially when you have the hood up on this Hobo Myers, it's not much of a height difference, and it's really not that obvious. And this unmasked head does sit a little lower. When he has the masked head on, it's even closer in height. But these things look great together. Part of the reason I'd asked for my Hobo Myers to be weathered so heavily was because I knew One's weathering was pretty extreme on this H1 figure. So I wanted to definitely make it look like this Hobo Myers was that same figure, more tattered and torn and beat up. And C Creations definitely delivered. So this is a piece that I absolutely love. It's something I've wanted in my collection for many years, and I'm thrilled to finally have it. I have no complaints. This is a great combination of parts from two very talented people coming together to make a figure that I've wanted for quite a long time. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I kind of developed this weird obsession with this version of Michael Myers, and I'm thrilled to finally have a great example of it here in my collection. I'm going to put links in the description down below for both One's Customs and C Creations. From what I've seen, the best place to follow them is on Instagram, though I think they both have Facebook fan pages as well. And I've already got a couple more things I'm planning to get from both of these guys, hopefully in the near future. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, this has been their Outside the Box Reviews. Stay tuned for more to come.